Good morning, everyone. Masks on. And for those who are speaking or singing, you will have the option of either keeping them on or taking them off. Friends, thank you all for coming today. On behalf of the Hollingsworth family, I want to welcome you. It's hard to believe that it's been a year since Ed died. It's a good and a right thing that we come to mourn the loss of our dear loved one. And at the same time, in the midst of our grief, we celebrate Ed's life. A life well lived. A life of honor and love and service and entertainment and education. Ed, he had a talent for gathering lost souls. And friends, I was one of them. I met him about 25 years ago. I was, at that time, he was Mr. H to me. I was in his drama class. In high school, I'd gotten myself into a bit of trouble. I was a TA for a Spanish class. And my brother, my twin brother, he was a part of that class, and so I made the really, really smart choice of changing my brother's grades. And the teacher couldn't prove that I changed the grades, but she definitely kicked me out of being her TA. It was the last day of being able to switch classes like you do in high school, and I'm frantically running around the high school trying to figure out where I should go. And I end up in the little theater. And Mr. H, he saw that I was distressed. And he took me in. And then eventually, when I told him why I needed the class so badly, many months later, he gave me a place and a stage to work my stuff out. Mr. H's drama class, it changed the directory of my life. He provided a safe space for all kinds of people, including me. It was in his class that I met some really good friends who I still keep in touch with all these years later. And his education in drama didn't go to waste on me because I use what I learned in his class every Sunday when I lead the liturgy. I've been honored at our connection since high school as well. Not only did he gather lost souls, but in my teenager brain, he was kind of a good wingman too. I was the lead in our senior show, and there was this kiss in the show, and I couldn't do it. I was embarrassed to kiss in front of the whole class, and I hadn't kissed a lot of girls before, and I laughed every time that she came in to give me a kiss, and so finally Ed, he got so frustrated with me that he said, "You two go outside and kiss until you get it right." Best teacher ever. Friends, I have many stories, and I know that you do too. And so as we begin, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like for us to all take a moment of silence. Hold Ed in your mind and in your heart. Remember Mr. H fondly and who he was in your life. So let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Chris.
I don't know how both these speeches are going to involve kissing, but apparently walking into my 9th grade drama class back in, I guess, 88, I can remember how scared I was. Rosemont was a big school, and I had no idea what was going to happen in this elective. I was instantly greeted by a welcoming, gregarious, lovely, tall man. He had an incredible way of maintaining control over a group of squirrely young children without losing rapport with any of them. I remember one time when we were doing 2 different scenes in class, and he would take our feedback as to which one we wanted. I don't remember what one was, but I do remember what the one I didn't want was, and that was the one involving a kiss. And even though I picked the one without the kiss, I ended up getting assigned the one with the kiss. And I remember talking, like, I took the initiative to talk to him after class and say, you know, hey, I wanted the other scene. And he looked at me and said, I know. I didn't give you what you wanted. I gave you what you needed. And with that smile, the smile that you all know, that the smile that you know that he cared about you deeply, and that it was okay. It was going to be okay. And he did know what students needed. I remember the relaxation exercises he would do in class, where you're all lying on your back. And I remember lying there as a freshman thinking, what am I doing? Why am I lying here on my back right now? Why am I spending time here on the floor relaxing? But now as an assistant principal at a middle school, I fully get it. I truly wish every single teacher would spend some time with their kids doing just that. It's one of the most valuable things you can teach your kids, how to calm your body and mind, how to cope, how to relax, how to get by. And I was constantly reminded of some of these things. We all got this card today with the Serenity Prayer. And I teach this prayer to every kid in my office, whether they know it or not. If they're religious, I teach it directly. And if they're not, I teach it indirectly. Because when you're a child, you don't have control over a lot. And it's frustrating. But when you can focus on your body and focus on the things that you do have control over, it helps you get by. And so I just love the fact that this, and I'm going to take this with me, and it's going to be on my wall in my office. It's amazing. The awareness of Mr. H, and I still call him Mr. H or H, never called him that, even as we progressed in life. But the awareness of him to understand the social and emotional needs of students was truly matched by nobody. And I'm so blessed to have met him as a student, and then get to know him even more as an adult and a fellow performer and a friend on stage with 3 different companies through countless productions. One of the first productions we did together was Oliver, the Lyric Opera. It was particularly special for both of us since I was in his production of Oliver back in '91 at Rosemont High with his son Morgan as Oliver at the elementary school coming up to do the high school production, and I was playing Bill Sykes. And he continued his mentorship then, because I was early in my professional career, through his supportive comments and feedback. And we often reflected on our memories of that high school production. He loved celebrating other people's achievements and excelled at lifting people up. One of the silver linings of COVID has been the reminder of how important certain communal characteristics are. Compassion, care, love, selflessness, sensitivity, empathy are among them. Mr. H embodied these. Through numerous productions with San Diego Opera, H would always be seen chatting with somebody about what was going on in their life. During breaks, of course, he would never take up rehearsal time with his chatting, but during breaks, he would be chatting with people. You could tell through his conversations, because you had some of them with him, he was celebrating your achievements through that time with you. And at the end, after his conversation, he would always end it with a big hug. And you all know that hug. And it's awful that we're in this weird time of kind of being able to hug, kind of not being able to hug. But I was reminded of that big hug when I got met with one of my friends outside, Molly, who came today, who also knows that big hug, and we were able to give that big hug to each other and celebrate them. And I just encourage you all, moving forward, don't forget that hug. It's hard when times go by, right? Time goes by and we get used to something. Don't get used to this. I know, none of us are okay with this, but don't get used to this. Don't get complacent. Don't forget that hug. Don't forget his amazing characteristics. And bring those characteristics and those hugs into the world just like he did.
Impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm late to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm late to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
It's an honor to be here today to remember my dear friend Ed. Thank you, Marion, for asking me to do this. I wish I didn't have to be here. I wish I could still feel Ed's amazing hugs. I first met Ed performing, what else, in the San Diego Gilbert and Sullivan Company. I was singing in the pit, playing in the pit, and he was on stage. And in around 1981, for some reason I ended up taking him home. We carpooled, I can't really remember. But he mentioned at the time that he was divorced, or maybe finishing up a divorce. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what a stupid person his ex was. I mean, how could she let go of this great guy, you know? Because even though, you know, I wasn't on stage with him, I had been around him enough that I knew he was just a really, really wonderful person. And, you know, even though my older siblings had completely cured me ever of the desire of wanting a husband and children, I knew, oh man, someone is going to be so lucky to get this guy. And, you know, eventually he found Marion, and I was thrilled for him that he found someone so wonderful that he could share his life with. We ended up, you know, performing together at San Diego Opera for many years. One of the memorable productions, memorable for being less than the best, because the stage director was the most boring person in the world. The staging was the most boring staging in the world. I got paired with Ed a lot because we were both tall, before Chris got in there, and we were the tallest ones. And in this particular production, the tall people were at the back, and the short people at the front. So Ed and I were back there, and we did nothing. We just stood there. And, sorry Chris, yeah, we talked. And he was so proud of the entire time I knew him, so proud of all of his kids. And at that time, they just had Trevor, and every single rehearsal, and we talked during performances too. Every single time. Oh, did I tell you what Trevor did yesterday? Oh, Trevor said the funniest thing. He just exuded this love for his family and for Marion. It was a really beautiful thing to see, that he could be so nurturing and loving and so very, very proud of all of you. And in later productions, even if we weren't staged together, a lot of times we'd carpool together, and I'd hear these wonderful stories while driving or riding to the performances. And there was a production of Elixir of Love in 1996, and he got to be on stage with Blair. And like father, like daughter, Blair had this cute little bit where Ed would carry her over to the snake oil salesman, and she would make a nasty face because the medicine was so bad. And he was thrilled to be able to do that. And directors would often give him, bits to do because they could see he was so good on stage. And I felt so bad for him that right before performances, he ended up injuring his back and he couldn't be on stage. And so I got to be the stage mom. I got to carry Blair over to Dr. Dulcamara to make her nasty face. And I felt Ed with me there every performance. It's like, see Ed, she's doing it really good. And it was just, I always loved it when he was in the production because, number one, I got the hugs. Number two, he always had this really wonderful but gentle sense of humor. He never made fun of people. He was always one of the most wonderful people to be around. And I'm going to miss that a lot. A lot. When Ed and Marion told me that he had cancer, my heart just dropped. And I found out that it was a rare type of cancer that my sister actually had, and I saw a glimmer of hope because I knew that there were several medications available, and I was hoping that, even if he didn't go into remission, hopefully it could be managed. So he could be here for years instead of months. It's hard when the good people get bad things. He lived an incredibly wonderful life, an incredibly wonderful family, incredibly wonderful friends. On my parents' headstone, we put on the bottom, still loved by Rosalie, Peggy, Rick, Bobby, and Patty. I don't think there is a granite slab big enough to inscribe all the names of Ed's still loved by.
Thank you. I'm going to stand here to speak from my heart. Everybody likes a story. Whether you're a child or you're an adult, there's magic in a story. When I met Ed, who I didn't know, I thought I found a storybook character. Truly. I came to town and I knew nobody. I was living in Los Angeles, I have a musical background, an entertainment background, and I decided to come to San Diego. I decided to start a society orchestra. So I called the Jewish temple, I said, who's the best singer in town? The best singer in town. By far, Ed Hollingsworth. So Ed Hollingsworth comes to my house, we spent hours talking, of course, about the family. We never talked about music, it was the family. It was the kids. After years of working with him on so many productions, every kind of fundraiser, charities, raising money, weddings, funerals, happy occasions, Broadway shows, cabaret shows, the man was magic. He really had magic. So I used to say he's my Rex Harrison, he's magic, he's storybook. He's a storybook father. Look at that family, look at that picture outside. You walk in, I thought, this is Disneyland. This is Florida. Except I know the kids. The real truth is, I had so many evenings with him performing together. We did every kind of imaginable party. Every year I produced a Christmas show for 14 years at the La Valencia Hotel. I would not do it without Ed. But if you have Ed, the family comes. And they're loving. Every one of them is just a joy. But the real joy was Ed's mother. As she got older, she became much more important to him. She would come every Christmas to the La Valencia Hotel in a red coat and a little pin with bells ringing. She would jingle all the way. And she'd sit in front and he would cry. It was so tender. I'm trying not to cry. He loved his family. When his mother walked in the room, he became a different singer. It's like he was in heaven. Every year I look forward to his mother coming, of course, the family. I can tell you that we performed so many events. I remember going to see him in White Christmas at the North Park Theater. Did anybody see that? Was anybody in it? Nobody? I saw it, okay? I told so many people. He was a star. He was the general. He was always the general. was quiet in charge. He was kind. He was loving. I can tell you one night on New Year's Eve, we got booked into a new hotel on the beach called Tower 23. Well, the tickets were so high, and we read in the magazine, it's the highest ticket in town to go for New Year's Eve. We were the entertainers. I said, how did this happen? So we're on the rooftop. The television cameras are there. NBC was there, waiting to film us singing, my playing the piano, and all these people supposed to be up there. Well, the ticket price was so damn high, nobody could go up there. Everybody was in the bar below. So I said at the end of the bar, I said, you know, it's getting to be midnight, you have an empty room, you're on television. So I said, Ed down, I said, tell that bartender to send 50 people up, give free drinks. You better serve for... Ed was like singing his heart out to a full ballroom, I'm telling you. He was incredible. He was fun, he was sensitive, he was loving. I will tell you, I miss him so much. But I learned so much from him. I taught him, but he taught me much more. And I'm going to miss him, and I can tell you that cabaret music, the love songs, the old music, the new music, he always talked about his students. He talked about his family. And you couldn't book Ed unless you fed him chocolate. When I had my orchestra, everybody knew, because we dealt with some big events. And I said, if you're going to pay us, you better feed us. So Ed, I said, and we have a guy that loves chocolate, so you better have some chocolate for Ed. Ed used to call me when Marianne would make chocolates. He says, oh my God, we've got great stuff over here. So he really was my brother in chocolate. And I will tell you with a lot of love, I miss him. And I know he's looking after all of us, and he's sliding on a candy bar somewhere.
Thank you so much. Court?
Hi, everyone. So Ed and I knew each other in so many different capacities throughout the year. As co-worker, as landlord, Santa brethren, but most importantly, as a friend. But I just realized the other day, as I was thinking about what I was going to say, that Ed was the first person to teach me about what it means to be in show business. When I was in 4th grade, I don't even think I told you this, when I was in 4th grade, Ed, I was at Fame Elementary School, and Ed came to our school to audition us kids to be in Fagan's gang in Oliver, that 91 production. So it was my very first audition ever. I sang Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I was very excited and very nervous, and I did not get in. Ed taught me the most basic lesson in show business: rejection. But I persevered, and many years later, I booked my very first show at Starlight Bowl. It was Evita, and I was lucky enough to be cast alongside Ed. But not just Ed, his entire family. Marion, Trevor, Blair, Jackson, Morgan. He was absolutely over the moon that he could share the stage with his family. And he talked about it all the time. And that's where I really got to know Ed, was through the love of his family. And he told me how extra special it was during the show with his family because Starlight was where he met Marion. And I wish you could have seen the glint in his eye. I'm sure you've all seen this glint in his eye when he talks about Marion and his family. Ed truly invited me into his family when Trevor and I became roommates and best buddies. To be welcomed into the Hollingsworth home, as we all know, is a feeling unmatched. But one of the happiest times of knowing Ed was when I happened to run into him and Marion at Rubio's Fish Taco in La Mesa. And at that time, SeaWorld was having auditions for Santa. And we were catching up, and I had a light bulb moment. And I said, Ed, you have to be Santa. You have to be Santa. Oh my gosh, like all these years, why didn't I think about this? A man with that much love in his heart, with that much love and respect for children of all ages, would do the world a disservice if he didn't don the red suit at least once. And one of my fondest memories, if there's any children or believers in Santas, I apologize, I'm going to break magic right now. But one of my favorite memories, you know, as a fellow Santa, I didn't really get to see how he interacted with children unless I went in on my own time. But we would always have a little switcheroo. So they would close the Santa's workshop door, we would switch around. But the best was that I walked in one day and there were what were called house elves, which were like the people helping Santa. And they were all seated at his feet. And he was singing. And, you know, just grown adults just sitting at his feet, just, you know, what a magical thing to have Santa sing to you. So he auditioned, obviously he was cast, and obviously Ed was the best Santa I have ever seen, and I know will ever have seen. Agape love in its truest form. That's it. There will never be another like this man and his beautiful soul. So thank you for sharing the love, Ed.
Here's a song that I wrote for him. Rest easy now, lay your weary head down and hold your hand in mine. Rest easy now, shed away your sicknesses and embrace your second skin. And I promise you everything you gave me. May you live in songs and tears, in songs and tears. Breathe in again. Think of all of us who love you. They're singing in your dreams. Breathe in again. Hear us hum a soft refrain, filled with memories of you. And I promise you everything you gave me. May you live in songs and tears, in songs and tears. May you songs and and salted tears.
Hello. Well, now that I gotta speak, I gotta take one of my dad's breathings. First of all, my name is Blair Castellanos. I'm Ed's eldest daughter, for those who don't know me. Thank you so much for all of those who've shared their talent and words of love for my father. It means the world to me that you are all here. My initial thought when I was asked to speak was to collect meaningful quotations from the books, plays, and movies my dad loved so much. But then I was reminded that I'm here to speak to you about him as his daughter. This is my dad as I knew him, and will always remember him. My dad had an amazing confidence and a warmth that could light up a room or make you feel like you were the only one in the room speaking to him. His large expressions and desire to bring a smile to everyone he interacted with are things that will stick with me always. I love the way he experienced joy and happiness so fully, especially when looking at my mother. As we all know, my dad had a deep love of theater that all of his family shares. Those of you who were in his class know how much he also loved history and teaching. I believe it is truly special for a theater teacher to really and genuinely treat his students as young professionals who should use their experience in theater to inform their professionalism for the rest of their lives. As his daughter and as his former student, I saw firsthand how he truly cheered for every one of you and considered each of you one of his kids. I have heard so many stories this past year of how he saw students in need of guidance or a safe place to be and gave them that place to belong and feel valued. He made sure no one undervalued their intelligence or self-worth, no matter their background or faith, and gave them a place to truly express themselves. When I was a student, I was in his 0-hour beginning theater class. That was early. But I will always cherish the time we spent together in our morning routine when we would wake up really early, have breakfast together, and go to school together. I also loved being his TA in his Algebra 1 classes, and seeing him try to explain how x plus 2 could only ever be x plus 2 until he was blue in the face, yet still being the picture of patience and understanding for those who really needed someone to continue to have faith in their ability to learn. Many of my favorite memories growing up happened in my dad's little theater. I love seeing the magic that Dad created with the students. I remember chasing lizards with some of you when you babysat me while Dad was staging a scene. I think it was A Midsummer Night's Dream. And being amazed as you fought with real swords, or, stage swords, in the Scottish play, which I thought was very impressive. But most of all, I remember seeing how much commitment Dad showed to these high school productions. He was just as devoted as he was in any professional show, and maybe even a little more so. Because you could see how deeply he cared about the experience and lessons he gave his students who were coming to school on a Saturday to rehearse a play. He sat in his desk in the corner wearing his high school drama polo shirt and his short 80s shorts. Going over blocking and laughing as the students and children ran around living our best lives. That was the magic he brought. He brought a sense of warmth, calm, fatherly guidance, enthusiasm, and commitment that we all need in our lives. And he wanted to include any of those who needed a home into the home he created in his theater or in our actual home. How many drama teachers have their home address so readily available for students to show up with everything from a new baby to chocolate cake to a bowling ball stuck on their hand? You know the story. And if you don't, ask us later. I know that the world is a little less warm and bright without him in his open arms for a hug to support all those who need him. Many of you know his public persona, but at home, he was a quieter version of himself. And as with most people, he let his true loves show. He kept the model planes from World War II and various model ships that he loved to build. In fact, he knew ships so well that he built a ship for me out of a cereal box for a project, complete with all the rigging just from looking at a picture. Dad also had a great passion for reading, mostly about history, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, and he truly loved anything with chivalry. He gave his love of history and his deep running faith in all that is honorable and right to me. I feel that the many nights I sat beside him on the couch, watching westerns, documentaries, and Horatio Hornblower, talking to him about what was right and wrong, and seeing the way he treated others shaped who I became as an adult. And I will cherish every minute I spent with him and every time he made me feel special. I could tell you so many stories of who he was and how he championed me being strong and independent. As I became an adult, his support never wavered. He came to every performance I did as a professional, every undergraduate performance, my undergraduate graduation, my wedding, and my law school graduation. I had the very special experience of traveling to Europe with him and seeing the awe on his face as he saw the castles and places he had always wanted to visit. On my wedding day, he was so proud to walk me down the aisle and so excited to dance with me that it made the day all the more special. Once I got to law school, he wasn't able to help me much, but there was one time he really came through. One of my favorite memories from law school was when I was talking to him on the phone. And I was like, oh man, Dad, Fed tax is killing me. So Dad, as a teacher, and as my dad said, well, tell me what it is and maybe I can help. He then proceeded to help me understand this concept much more than I had. And he was so proud of himself. He loved the fact that not only could he help me in the class, but that he could still be there for me. And to him, that was really special. I could fill a book with how he would check on me when I slept, because I asked him to in case the dinosaurs came. How he would come home from rehearsal and we would ambush him with Nerf guns. How he would drive up to Los Angeles to visit my grandmother with me, because I would keep him awake with my incessant talking. But to me, he was my chocolate-loving, embarrassingly singing in public, old movie loving, World War II fact reciting, and truly special father, with blue eyes that twinkled when he was saying something funny or looking at someone he loved. I love you, Dad. I will always be your princess, and you will always be my hero.
Thank you all for joining today. You have to excuse me, I'm still crying over Warden's song. My dad, raised us to be emotionally honest, to be in the moment, feel what you're feeling, and trust it, and use it. I can't talk too many stories I won't be able to hold together because I can only make it through a Pixar movie. That's for Norby. I still even watch the ending to Turn Who. So, number one, I want to talk about the acting from love. To act from love and to use love as a verb. I remember him coming home just so late from rehearsals. This is a man who would teach so early in the morning, come home, teach voice lessons, scarf down food, run to the opera or whatever show he was doing, and come back home at 11:30 midnight. And here I was, waiting for my dad, whether it was lines, math homework. He didn't want to help me. Honestly, he really just wanted to go upstairs, take a shower, and go to bed. But at that moment, his son needed. It was the act of love. Number two is he loved aha moments. He called them light bulb moments. I want you to always ask why. Because it forces you to see the truth, forces you to keep learning, forces you, more importantly, a better knowledge of yourself. One of his favorite plays and movies was Inherit the Wind. There's a scene at the very end. The journalist goes up to the defense attorney and referring to the preacher that just spoke, said he's looking for God too high up and too far away. I remember working that scene with him and him talking about that. So many people think that the kingdom of heaven is so far away, where you selfishly do good deeds just so you can rationalize your way to heaven. For him, he wanted to bring it here. Excuse me. To let us know the kingdom of heaven is just between us, right here at this moment. I think when you live a life of kindness, of love, and sacrifice, you'll find that that Spirit will trust you enough to maybe answer someone else's prayers. We had so many students message us saying so many kind words, but one that stuck with us was your dad saved my life. Wasn't one student, it was countless. many souls are here in this world because you took the time to let me know you were loved. And in that love, alright, I gotta stop writing so I can see what I wrote. Your messages of your dad changed the trajectory of my life. Your dad was the only father figure I had. How he was able to drink from that well of love and always keep giving. So special. He would raise to any challenge of teaching. He loved it so much because teaching all of you forced him to get out of his comfort zone and keep learning as well. I wasn't going to tell the story, but there's so many musical theater people here I kind of feel I have to. I was a young boy. And I asked my dad what a Jew was. And so, a little confused why his young son asked a question like that. He got out the Bible, we went through the Old Testament, the New Testament, talked about Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And I'm a little boy, this is way over my head. And I thought, like, no, Dad, no. In the Sound of Music, when they sing a Jew, to you, and you. We had some friends who were kind enough, Taylor Hart and Amy Hart, were kind enough to put together a beautiful word urn for us to keep him in. And Eric asked me to describe Dad. And how do you just describe a man like him? So after writing a bit, at the end I said, honor and integrity. More important to him than gold. So use this. Live in a way that would honor him. By doing so, you honor all of us around you. Don't rob us of the full experience of you. Let this be your aha moment. And Confucius said that we live two lives. The second one begins when we realize we have just one. Keep his light. Thank you.
With my tall family here. When I was first thinking about what to say about Ed, about what he means to us and what he means to me, it seemed almost impossible because how do you summarize a man's life in just a few minutes? I was lost to even begin, so I started scrolling through Ed's Facebook page and reading all the comments we had received from about a year ago when I first posted about his condition. And all of you who left these wonderful, loving comments guided me about what to say today. Ed was extremely private about his cancer diagnosis. Initially, he didn't even want me to tell anybody, and I found out I need a little support. We need to tell a few people in our circle. Maybe it was the actor in him always wanting to be available to be cast, but he didn't want that to interfere with that. So it wasn't until he was hospitalized for the last time in last September, I asked Ed whether he would like me to post something so we could get a little love and support, and he goes, yes, I think it's time. So I was hoping for a few comments that would help encourage him. And I like to encourage him to fight back and fight back harder. And amazingly, we just didn't get a few messages. We got this overwhelming amount of responses. And this was, emails and voicemails and texts. We got a message from the Sills that Eric helped pull together, encouraging him to fight. And what was amazing is everyone, again, we're always telling stories about how Ed influenced them. It was from the first beginning of starting to get stories of how he had helped people. This included the cast member who thanked him for teaching her how to wall so she could be in the ballroom scene, or how someone in his drama class stayed in high school just because of his class, and how we taught by example. We took turns reading all of these stories to him, and we could tell that he was so deeply moved by everyone's stories and encouragement. And after Ed passed, there were even more comments and messages and handwritten letters, again, all telling stories of how he had made a difference in their life. Coaching the student who wanted to pass the teacher's credential test, but math was just killing her, so he came over to our dining room table and he sat there and he taught her for several hours, several times a week, how to get through this. And she passed and she got the job. She wanted to still in it, by the way. And then there's all the letters for recommendation for jobs and to get into college. And what became so common is that everyone had a story about how Ed made them feel like they mattered, how he feel like they were seen, that they were important. He had this sixth sense of knowing when someone was upset or felt alone, was depressed. One day, he noticed a foreign exchange student in his class that seemed very sad. And so he talked to her to find out what was going on, and she was very upset because she was very homesick. Her host family had lost interest in her. So he went to the office and got permission for her to live with us. Doubled up on some kids in bedrooms, and she stayed with it the whole program. It mattered to him that she had a good experience here. And we still keep in contact with her and her family down under because of that. Things with Ed, you could trust him. He was a man of his word, even in some insignificant things. Like, for example, when we were first dating, we went to this movie, and the lead was going to be getting this shot, and it was this big needle, and I was like, I don't want to watch this. And it goes, no, I'll let you know when it's safe. And in the back of my mind, because I had trust issues from a previous relationship, I was going to go, yeah, he's probably going to have me look at right where the needle goes in. But he didn't, He was a man of his word, and, he had me look up when it was safe, and it was like, oh, wow. I was really impressed, this is really something. And it wasn't me either. Everyone he knew he could be counted on to go to with any problem. And if he couldn't solve the problem, at least he could make you feel better about it. I mean, it wasn't unusual for him to come home with mascara smeared on his shirt from a student who needed an extra hug that day. And to comment on the story that Blair brought up, late one night the doorbell rang. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And, we kind of looked at what's going on. As Ed opened the door, there were two students standing there. And they go, Ed, we're in trouble. And he's kind of going, these two? And from the back of her, she pulls out a bowling ball stuck on her hand. Because where else do you go when you have a bowling ball stuck on your hand? Ed loved that story. He told it for years, and I don't know whatever happened to the bowling ball because I used baby oil to get her hand out. So we don't know if the bowling ball survived. What I realized in reading all these hundreds of tributes to my Ed is that his was truly a life well lived. For someone's life and memory to generate this much love and respect was truly extraordinary. Within a day after Ed passed, Jeremy and Joshua Serrano organized a Zoom with former students so we could all sit there and just tell stories about it. And it fulfilled us so much because it was during COVID and we couldn't have a memorial right away, and that just, that was very upsetting. But to hear other people, it helped us to hear other people tell us how much they loved Ed. And Former student Joe Everett and a number of others helped organize and fund the effort to get a bench with Ed's name at Rosemont High School. And you can see it now, right across the entrance from the new theater, the one he had always hoped for and unfortunately didn't live to see, but it's right there. And as for me, I just miss him. I miss everything about him. I miss holding his hand, kissing him goodnight, and just talking to him about our day. But one of the things I miss most, it's voice. I always loved listening to him sing. He once asked me if it bothers him that he would just break out into song, or no, I told him I just love hearing him sing. His voice was his identity, so it was particularly cruel when this intestinal cancer also took that voice from him. So there were no final conversations, no last words to cherish. Later, we were going through some boxes that Ed had squirreled away, Morgan and I, and we found these old reel-to-reel tapes of Ed singing back in the 70s. And I had other videos of him singing, but this goes way back to his days with the Serendipity Singers. And he was the folk singer. He chose folk over rock, thinking he just liked it because it sounded better, realizing he probably could have made more money with rock, but he was happier during this. So we went through all these videos of him singing. We went through hundreds of pictures, because thank heavens actors have a lot of pictures anyway, and I always took a lot of pictures as the mom. So we have a lot of wonderful pictures to help us remember him by, and we sent them to Laura Roos, a former student who generously offered to make a video for his memorial. And I was hoping that she would capture the essence of Ed as a performer, a teacher, and a family man. And I'm so grateful to say she was able to do just that. We are impressed and humbled that so many people took the time to tell us what Ed meant to them. As I said, it gave us comfort knowing others loved him almost as much as we did. You wouldn't think that a high school teacher and an old song and dance man could affect that many lives, but Ed did just that, one person at a time. It truly exemplifies a life well lived. So as you watch this video, please think of what Ed means to you.
As they say in the theater, on with the show.
I've gotta move on with this singing show. I can't think how to tell you what I want you to know. I love you, my darling, I love you.
I didn't have time to get
So mean.
I don't know. I mean, open it, you'll see how mean I am.
Happy 35 years.
Oh, goodness. It's so cute. Look at the
Anytime. Try the other end. There we go.
Emerald.
That's the 35th is the emerald.
Oh,
You guys are so cute. Happy 35 years. I love you guys so much.
I love you, Trevor.
My darling, I found you.
Melodrama. So if you feel like cheering, you certainly may. There are several guys you can boo for. That shouldn't be easy. But just enjoy the technique of melodrama. See, I'm just going from picture to picture.
Welcome, bienvenue, welcome. Fremde, étrange, stranger. Glücklich zu sehen, je suis enchanté. Happy to see you. Bleibe, resten, stay. Und sagen, willkommen, bienvenue, welcome to Cabaret, en Cabaret to Cabaret. See, I know something today that I didn't know even yesterday. If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that she turns out to be someone who'll watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the woods. I know I could always be good to one who'll watch over me. The last time I saw your faces, you were all boys. Now, here you are with your wives and your children. Oh, it's a grand sight. My friends, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Regrets. I've had a few. But then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I'm
was a really good video. My name is Joshua Serrano. I was in the class of 1998. And I don't have much more to add. I'd like you to do me a favor. I want you to put your hands over your hearts. As we hold all of the stories that we've heard, as we keep Ed in our minds and our hearts, and ensure and certain hope that Ed's memory will live on through his legacy of love and care, entertainment, education, we commend Edward Hollingsworth to his resting place. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. May rest eternal be his home, and may perpetual light shine on him. There's a song that Ed used to play for his students, and I'm sure for anyone who would listen. It's a beautiful song, and in fact, it has become really his song. And so I'd like to invite you all to pull out your bulletins and to open it up. And there's a song on the second page called Today. And I would, as we end our time together, I would invite you to sing along.
Today, what a loss I'm still clinging to the line. I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. Till tomorrow shall all pass away. Ere I forget all the joy that is mine today. Today, what a blossom still clings to the vine. I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. Till tomorrow shall all pass away. Ere I forget all the joy that is mine today. I can't believe I'm tempted with yesterday's glory. I can't live on promises, winter to spring. Today is my moment, and now is my story. I'll laugh and I'll cry and I'll sing. Today, what blossoms still cling to the vine. I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. Millions tomorrow shall all pass away.
Guys, thank you all so much for coming out. Don't forget to tell stories. Continue to tell stories about Ed and his impact on your lives. There is reception at the Hollingsworth home, and you'll find the information on the back of the bulletin, and you are invited to join the family for the reception. Thank you all so much again, and our service is complete.
Thank you.